Hey everybody, and welcome to our Monday night call. Tonight we have some really important things to talk about. We're going to be talking about our flagship product, Plexus Slim, and insulin resistance and blood sugar balance, and why all of that is so important. And then my friend Chris Holtzclaw is going to share with you some information that she found about the ingredients. So let me make sure I'm unmuted. Okay, can everybody hear me fine? Not if you can hear me. Okay, cool. All right, so let's talk about blood sugar balance. So whether your body is in a disease state or a healthy state, it always starts at the cellular level. There's a certain number of things that your cells need in order to be healthy. And so that's why we eat food, because food is what gives our cells the nutrients they need to do their job and keep us alive and functioning properly and all that good stuff. So when you eat food, your body, your stomach, breaks it down into nutrients, turns it into glucose or sugar. Some foods, and then it puts it into your bloodstream. So some foods can be converted to glucose way more easily than others, though, and that causes a rise in our blood sugar. So glucose or sugar is what fuels our metabolic processes within our cells. So your body breaks down your food into nutrients, then it goes into your bloodstream, but we don't want it to stay in our bloodstream. We need to get the sugar out of our blood and into our cells to be used for fuel. So hormones are chemical messengers that send signals to our cells to let our cells know what to do. And insulin is a hormone secreted by the pancreas, and its release is triggered by sugar in your blood. It's a multifunction hormone, which means it has several different jobs, and it's also the master hormone. It controls or directs every other hormone in your body. So we don't want a bunch of sugar in our blood. For us to think clearly and feel our best, our blood sugar needs to be in a normal range. So normal is considered around 100 milligrams per deciliter. Don't worry about the milligrams per deciliter part. Just remember that number 100 is about normal. So if our blood sugar gets too high, it's really toxic to us. It causes nerve damage and things like that, which is why type 2 diabetics, when they have chronic high blood sugar, they lose their vision, they start getting neuropathy in their feet, their kidneys fail. It causes all kind of problems. So we don't want our blood sugar to get too high because it's really toxic. But we don't want it to get too low either, because then our cells wouldn't be able to function. We would actually die if it got too low. So we have several hormones that can raise our blood sugar when it gets too low, but we only have one hormone that lowers it if it gets too high, and that is insulin. So one of the things that insulin does is get sugar out of the bloodstream and into the cells to be used for energy. So it keeps our blood sugar normal by keeping the sugar out of the blood. And it also takes nutrients from the bloodstream and puts it into the cells as well. So it's not just putting sugar in the cells, but also the nutrients from our food into our cells. Insulin basically just knocks on the door of our cells to let it know to open up and let everything in there that needs to get in there. So this is what happens normally, like in a normal, healthy body. However, when we eat sugar, which as Americans, most of us do because it's hidden in pretty much everything, or if we eat other carbs that can be converted to sugar very quickly, the pancreas sends out a surge of insulin, and it basically overcompensates. When you have a blood sugar spike, you also have an insulin spike to make sure that the sugar gets out of your blood before it does damage. And so lots of insulin basically forces the sugar into our cells, like hammers it in there. So when we eat sugar or carbs, we're literally flooding our system with insulin. And we only need a teeny tiny little bit of insulin for it to do its job properly. But when we eat sugar or carbs, then we're flooding our systems, and that can be very toxic. The cells just get exhausted from that. When you do that over and over, they get so tired of insulin knocking all the time, especially that forcefully, and the cells will eventually begin to turn off their insulin receptors, and they become resistant to the insulin, and they don't want to let it in as much. It's just too much, and they just want to block it out. So if you think about listening to beautiful music, if you were to walk into a church and there was a beautiful music playing and it made you feel peaceful inside and all is right with the world, and then all of a sudden somebody turned the music all the way up as loud as it would go, and the speakers were blaring and the walls start rattling and your bones shake, and the first thing you want to do is this, right? You want to block it out. It's too much, because it's very powerful. So what once was a very good thing becomes detrimental to you. And that's what happens when we turn insulin up. Our cells just block it out. It's too much. So we don't want our cells to block out insulin, because insulin is what gets nutrients into our cells. So we need our cells to be really sensitive to insulin. And we need insulin to keep our blood sugar in a normal range. So what the pancreas does is secretes more and more insulin every single time. Because the cells become resistant, it takes more and more insulin to get the same job done. It's kind of like that kid who's yelling for mom, but mom doesn't hear. So what do? They get louder and louder and louder, like mom, 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 mom. They yell eventually because mom doesn't hear and she's blocking it out. Or it's like people, have you ever been around somebody who they have to have the movie blaring like on full blast to be able to even hear it? It didn't start that way, but they damage their hearing over time, and eventually they just have to like keep turning it up and up and up to do the same job. So because their ears get desensitized to it. So that's kind of like what our cells do with insulin, and why pancreas shoots out more and more insulin to get the same job done, because our cells just become so desensitized to it. So this is why even people with normal blood sugar need to be concerned about their blood sugar, because even if you have your blood sugar tested and it's normal, that doesn't necessarily mean that your insulin is normal. You would have to have a special test done to see what level your insulin is at. But so even if your blood sugar is normal, what that means is that your pancreas is currently doing its job of shooting out enough insulin to keep your blood sugar normal. But that's not an indicator of how much insulin is actually in your blood. So what happens when the cells become resistant to insulin? So when your cells are resistant to insulin, you're not absorbing all your nutrients. You're basically peeing them out. And your cells start to think that they're hungry, because even though you've eaten plenty of food, all the nutrients aren't getting into the cells. And so your cells are sending signals to your brain saying, we need more food, even after you've already eaten enough. It's kind of like feeling like you're pregnant all the time, I guess. Because that's what I feel like when I'm pregnant. Even when I'm full, I still feel hungry. So when your cells are becoming desensitized to insulin, though, one of the first things that you're going to notice are signs of hypoglycemia. And that's basically low blood sugar. Low blood sugar whenever you skip a meal, you don't eat. If you find yourself getting really irritable or getting the shakes or getting dizzy when you miss a meal, those are signs of low blood sugar. And that happens when you have too much insulin in your blood. And that is actually a pre-diabetic state. The next step would be type 2 diabetes, which is where your pancreas can't pump enough insulin anymore to keep your blood sugar in a normal range. And we definitely don't want that to happen. Another thing that insulin does is stores fat. So your cells can only hold so much sugar. So guess where the excess goes? Once your cells are full and they say, can't take any more, then insulin takes all of the excess and dumps it into your fat cells. And guess where its favorite place to store all the fat is? Your belly. So you know what else insulin does? It stands like a guard outside of your fat cells and will not let them release fat. It basically holds your stored fat prisoner. So you don't want a bunch of insulin in your bloodstream, because if you do, you cannot burn fat when you have high levels of insulin in your blood. Having high insulin levels in your bloodstream causes a lot more problems, though, than just that. In the early 1970s, Dr. Cruz was doing an experiment on a dog, and he accidentally, I don't know what he was trying to prove, but he accidentally left an insulin drip in one of the dog's arteries. And after 3 months, the artery was completely occluded with plaque. But the contralateral artery that had not had any contact with insulin was completely clear. So what does that tell you about the role that insulin plays in arterial plaque? This experiment has actually been repeated numerous times since then with the same results. So high levels of insulin in the blood causes plaque buildup. Cholesterol problems are insulin problems. Different cells become insulin resistant at different rates. The first cells to become insulin resistant is the liver. High blood sugar in the mornings, that's called your fasting blood sugar, fasting insulin, either one. But high blood sugar in the mornings is a sign that the liver is insulin resistant. The next type of cells that become resistant to insulin is muscle cells, and then it takes a while, but your fat cells can actually become resistant to insulin as well eventually. That is why people plateau like on their weight gain. Like I know people that have been the same weight, they're overweight, but they've been, no matter how much they eat, like they're not really getting any heavier. They're getting unhealthier. They're not necessarily getting any heavier, because at that point their fat cells become resistant to insulin, and that just means the cells are trying to protect themselves from those high levels of insulin that can be very, very damaging, because we're only designed to have just a little bit. See, what were they? The cells that don't really protect themselves, though, from the effects of insulin, they don't really become insulin resistant, are the arteries. And that is why the plaque builds up, because they're not protecting themselves. Insulin also causes retention of sodium, which causes the retention of fluid, which causes high blood pressure and fluid retention. That is congestive heart failure. So high blood pressure is also an insulin problem. There's also some pretty strong studies out there linking high levels of insulin to breast cancer and colon cancer. So it's a pretty serious deal. Thyroid problems. So your thyroid secretes hormones. T4 gets converted to T3 in your liver. But if the liver is insulin resistant, and remember the liver cells are the first ones to become insulin resistant, then it isn't functioning properly. It's not converting T4 to T3 properly, and you're going to get thyroid problems. So balancing your blood sugar and lowering your insulin and keeping your cells very sensitive to insulin is really important for a healthy thyroid. You can't absorb nutrients properly, and you get mineral deficiencies that cause all kinds of health problems. Last week, Christina listed a ton of health problems that result from a mineral deficiency called magnesium, and that was just one mineral. There are bunches more. So if you're not getting everything you need from your diet, you're not getting everything you need, your cells are not absorbing the nutrients, and you're going to have a lot of health problems that will result from nutrient deficiencies. All right, also, when you have high levels of insulin in your blood, it promotes inflammation. And I'm sure that all of us know, since we're Plexus ambassadors, that omega fatty acids are really important. And a lot of times you can't get all the ones you need through diet alone. And so a supplement is important. But if you eat grass-fed beef, you can get a lot of the omega-3s that you need. Most of us get plenty of omega-6s. Well, omega-3s are pretty stable. Omega-6s, though, they can be unstable. Like sometimes they can promote inflammation, and sometimes they reduce inflammation. And what is going to be the determining factor to what those omega-6 fatty acids do is the level of insulin in your blood. So if you have high levels of insulin, then it's going to promote inflammation in your cells. And inflammation is like a silent killer. It affects like every aspect of your health. We definitely don't want inflammation in our cells. All right, so early signs of insulin resistance. Being tired all the time, hungry all the time, overweight, especially belly fat, or like an apple-shaped body where you store a lot of fat around your middle but not necessarily the other parts of your body, afternoon blahs, waking up to pee in the middle of the night, irritable and shaky when you skip meals, having high blood pressure, high cholesterol, gestational diabetes. Some people get darkened patches of skin around their neck and their armpits, and clearly diabetes will be a sign of insulin resistance as well. So those are all warning signs of insulin resistance. The good news is, though, that insulin resistance can actually be reversed. That God has made our bodies with the amazing ability to heal themselves if you give your body what it needs. So there's 3 ways to make your cells more sensitive to insulin. The first and most obvious one is cut out the sugar. Your body only needs 100 milligrams per deciliter of sugar, which is basically, like in your whole body, which is basically the equivalent of 1 teaspoon of sugar. You have like an average of, depending on how big you are, an average of 5 liters of blood in your body. And you only need 1 teaspoon of sugar in your entire bloodstream, okay? So a glass of orange juice has 39 teaspoons of sugar in it. A can of soda, 39 teaspoons of sugar in it. So you are wearing your pancreas out when you drink soda, which is bad, because the pancreas not only releases insulin, it also releases enzymes that help with digesting your food. So not only would you be dealing with insulin problems if you wear out your pancreas, but you're also going to be dealing with digestive problems. So it's important to cut out the sugar and the junk carbs. So you do need some carbs, but you need to make sure they're good carbs. And if you don't know what a good carb is, send me a message. I'll let you know. Basically, if it's got fiber in it, it's going to be a better carb than a carb that does not have any fiber in it. And sugar is bad all the time. There is no good sugar. All right. Also, eat plenty of protein, plenty of healthy fats. Fat is not bad for you. If you're on a low-fat diet, that's going to cause a lot of health problems too. You need fat. And eat plenty of veggies. That's really primarily where your source of carbs should come from, is veggies. But don't eat so many foods that cause a rise in your blood sugar. So the first thing to do to increase your cell's sensitivity to insulin is cut out sugar, eat a healthy diet. The next thing you can do is exercise, especially resistance training, because like if you're doing bicep curls, you're increasing the blood flow to your biceps, and blood flow increases insulin sensitivity. So exercise, especially resistance training, can help with insulin sensitivity. And then the third thing is supplements. So this is where Plexus Slim comes in. You can actually provide your body with nutrition that you might not get through your diet alone, and that is why Plexus Slim is helping with so many things. So all the claims that Plexus Slim makes about balancing blood sugar, about how it promotes healthy blood pressure, healthy cholesterol and lipids, how it burns fat, not muscle, all of those claims are because it is actually increasing insulin sensitivity. So that's a really exciting stuff. And there was a study that some scientists did on people that lived to be over 100 years old. And they wanted to know, why are these people living so much longer than their peers? They tested like a lot of different variables. Some of them smoked, some of them didn't. Some of them drank, some of them didn't. They lived in different places, just all kinds of different variables. And the only thing they could find that these people had in common was how sensitive their cells were to insulin. So it really is a big deal. Plexus Slim helps. Everyone you know should be taking it, including you. Be faithful with it, consistent with it. So eat healthy, work out, and take your Slim and keep your blood sugar balanced. All right, Chris, let me unmute you. I'm going to turn it over to you. Chris is going to tell us all about the ingredients in Plexus Slim.
All right. Thanks, Brittany. That was awesome. I learned so much. And not only that, when Brittany asked me to get on this call tonight, I freaked out a little bit because I'm not a researching type person, but as I got to digging, I had to dig more and more because this is also interesting how it ties together. So I'm going to talk to you guys about the main healthy ingredients in Plexus that are going to help and relate to this insulin resistance that Brittany talked to you guys about tonight. And the first ingredient is chromium. It helps with glucose metabolism. It enhances the action of insulin to aid in the metabolism of carbs and fat, and then store protein in the body. So that's going to help us to lose fat and not muscle, because a lot of diets that we go on and these quick fixes that we try, they cause us to actually lose muscle mass and keep our fat on our body. But this is going to do the opposite. And then a little tidbit, foods that are rich in chromium have been used since the Civil War to help control blood sugar. So this isn't something new, guys. This is just something that this company has realized we really need in our body. It helps to reduce sugar cravings. It gives us natural, sustained energy. Chromium stimulates fatty acid and cholesterol synthesis to optimize our brain function. Many of the world's healthiest foods contain chromium, and this is why when people become pre-diabetic, many doctors add in a lot of healthy foods to their diet to try and get more chromium in their system. It also increases eye and bone health, and it plays an important role in lipid metabolism as well. The next ingredient is chlorogenic acid. It is a powerful polyphenol found in plants such as the green tea and green coffee extract. It's also found in blueberries, apples, pears, and it helps to, it's an anti-inflammatory and antioxidant known for helping to reduce blood levels of LDL and cholesterol to prevent plaque blockages. So those blockages that Brittany was talking about in that dog, that's what this is going to help with. It supports weight loss by forcing your body to use fat for energy. I thought that was really interesting. It can modulate after meal blood sugar surges. So that crash that you feel after you've had a meal and you just feel exhausted and wiped out, it's going to help to eliminate or alleviate that issue. The chlorogenic acid also has anti-diabetic properties. And what I found interesting was that if you actually roast this green coffee bean extract, it depletes almost any of the nutrients in the coffee bean and takes away from the health benefits. So that's why that it should be in a supplement form or a food form into our body instead of cooked. And it also improves retina health. We talked about, or Brittany talked about how diabetics' eye health goes downhill, and it helps to lower our blood pressure. So a lot of these ingredients so far, these two that we've talked about, and a lot of them are going to talk about a lot of the same things. So the combination is just incredible how much these products, when you get them into your body, start working towards the same goal together. The alpha lipoic acid, this is one of my favorites. It's a natural metabolic antioxidant that's already made in your body, and it's found in every cell of your body. And the purpose of it is to convert glucose into energy. It is both fat and water soluble. So most things are only water soluble, but it actually will dissolve into your fat. And it helps to regulate your blood sugar levels. So it effectively rids the body of free radicals. And when your body uses up your antioxidants, the alpha lipoic acid, or ALA, helps to regenerate them. It modifies gene expression to reduce inflammation. So it literally goes in, modifies your genes to help reduce inflammation in your body. That's crazy. It enhances insulin sensitivity. It can restore T cell functions, and T cells are a type of white blood cell that are a key factor in our immune function and our body's response to pathogens. It significantly helps with energy, production, and psychological functions. It is referred to as the universal antioxidant because it helps to restore antioxidants throughout the body. It basically assists the body from oxidizing too much too quickly due to overproduction of free radicals, which are substances that trigger that psychological phenomenon like stress and physical signs like aging or even inflammation in your body. It helps our enzymes to convert food to energy instead of storing as fat, like we talked about the glucose conversion. Because it reduces inflammation, it has been found helpful in aiding in the reverse of nerve damage. So people that are diabetics that have that nerve damage, it's actually been found to help with things like neuropathy. And then the next ingredient is beetroot extract. It is an antioxidant as well. It's a rich source of protein and nutrients, which I did not know. I just thought it's the food coloring in our Slim. But it has magnesium, sodium, potassium, and vitamin C. And what's cool about that vitamin C that's in there, it actually helps our body to absorb the chromium that's in Slim. It helps to lower and maintain our blood pressure to prevent cardiovascular problems, helps to increase blood flow. It decreases the risk of obesity, overall mortality, diabetes, and heart disease. So we're talking about prolonging life here, guys, from a beet. That's pretty cool. It promotes healthy complexion and hair. It reduces inflammation in our body, increases energy, improves weight loss results. So we have that plateau that Brittany's talking about. Sometimes we hit that plateau and then we'll lose a little bit of weight and we hit another plateau. Well, this is going to help with the reaching past the plateau and continuing on your weight loss journey instead of hitting a plateau every time. Many elderly patients are actually put on some form of beetroot to increase the blood flow and oxygen to certain areas of the brain to improve cognition and prevent possible dementia, which is amazing. That's something we all probably fear about getting old, growing into old age, our memory, losing that. And if something can help with that, that's just awesome. It helps with sleep, muscle movement, learning, and memory. It improves muscle oxygenation during exercise to help improve tolerance and endurance. And then we have stevia, which is a natural plant-based sugar substitute. It is low glycemic, so it doesn't actually cause insulin issues like sugar would, and it actually improves your insulin sensitivity. It's 0 calories, and stevia has a revitalizing effect on specific cells of the pancreas, which Brittany talked about this a little bit, which improves insulin sensitivity, promotes insulin production, and in turn helps to reverse the effects of diabetes and metabolic syndrome. It's healthy for you versus other artificial sweeteners that are in diabetic foods that are carcinogenic, which basically means cancer causing. And stevia is something that's just natural and healthy for you versus using the things that say diet on them, like the Splenda, the Sweet and Low. It contains potassium, zinc, magnesium, and vitamin B3. Helps to reduce constipation because it contains fiber. It contains iron, which can stimulate the production of hemoglobin. It is an antioxidant and has antioxidant compounds that actually reduce the risk of cancer in our body. It helps to dilate our blood vessels, increase sodium secretion, and urine output, which in turn helps to lower our blood pressure. It's effective against strong bacterial activity and even some candida, and that's why we notice the detox when we're on the Slim. It is suggested in a few studies that stevia can actually help in reducing dental decay and plaque. And I've actually heard that before, so that was interesting to see that confirmed. And then another ingredient is our Lu Han Gyo, which is the monk fruit, and it's been widely used for years in China for medicinal purposes. It is a sweet fruit extract. It's also a low glycemic sweetener. It's good for people that do not want to trigger insulin and are watching their weight. So people that are kind of already at where they want to be and they don't want to gain or lose. It supports the immune system, digestive tract, glands, and respiratory system. It helps in eliminating and defending against many health-related problems. It decreases blood sugar, total cholesterol, and triglycerides, and improves liver function, and it's protective of the kidneys from diabetic damage. Sounds like a superpower sweetener. And then the Garcinia cambogia is also extracted from a fruit. It's extracted from the skin of a fruit, and it makes meals feel more filling. So it's an appetite suppressant. It's also, this was the most interesting part of this, I thought, it's a fat blocker, so that fat cells cannot actually be formed in the body, thus decreasing your belly fat, which helps with your insulin resistance. And aids in serotonin levels, which in turn helps with mood so that you crave less. And it also, because it helps to control those hormones, mainly the cortisol, which is our stress hormone, it aids in better sleep as well. So that's just a few of the ingredients in the Slim, but the main ones that are really going to help with all these issues that Brittany was talking about. And it just blew my mind today to learn about all of that. And I think that's all I have, Britt.
That was awesome. Thank you so much, Chris. I know that was a lot of research and took you a lot of time to put that together. But yeah, that was super interesting. And I also find it really fascinating that a lot of those things you were talking about that those ingredients do, like you mentioned chromium reduces sugar cravings. The reason it does that is because the effect it's having on insulin. Because remember I said earlier how insulin basically makes your cells feel like they're starving because they're not getting the nutrients they need. So if your cells are more sensitive to insulin, you are absorbing your nutrients and you won't feel so hungry and you won't have so many cravings. And that was the first thing I noticed when I started taking Slim was less sugar cravings. But the other things you were talking about, how it prevents plaque blockages, it uses fat for energy, it regulates your blood sugar, all of that goes back to what it's actually doing to your insulin. It is increasing your cells' insulin sensitivity. So that's a big deal. That's the fountain of youth right now. I mean, right there. We all want to know how to be young forever, right? That's how you do it. Keep your cells sensitive to insulin. So that's all we got, y'all. Thank you for joining us. Hope this helped, and we will see y'all later. Bye.